to another video. We got an exciting one today because I will be starting the first seeds for the 2025 growing season, and that will be my onion seeds. You can see I got 4 different varieties out front here that I will be planting to get going, and I'll just be going through the process of filling up the trays, going through which trays I like to use, the type of soil I like to use to get them started. And there's multiple kinds of soil you can use. It doesn't matter the brand, that's up to you. Yeah, we'll just be going through every small detail. So hopefully when it comes time for you guys to start your onion seeds, you'll be better equipped and off to a good start with your onion seeds. Now, onion seeds are not too difficult to start growing indoors. It does require a little bit of research about your area and where you are growing your onions. Onions form bulbs in response to day length. When the number of daylight reaches a certain level, the onion plant will start forming its bulb. So this is important that you look up your area and find out which onion type is best for you. There's 3 types of onions. That's long day, which they'll need about 14 to 15 hours of daylight. There's short day onions, and that's about 10 hours of daylight. And then there is day neutral onions, and they will basically form a bulb no matter how much daylight there is. So basically you want to make sure you choose the correct onion plant so that your top of the onion has a nice strong green top, and it'll have to give it enough fuel to help create that big fat tasty bulb that you are looking for when you go to harvest your onions. So you can go to Google, check it out, type in your area. It's very easy. You'll be able to find out which type of onion you need. And for my area, I grow in Lancaster, PA, so long day onions is best suited for my particular area. So that's what you see here. These are all long day onions, which I will be starting, and depending where you live, you might need short day, long day, it all depends. So please look it up before you go to plant your onions, or you'll be very disappointed when you don't get a big fat bulb, and that's what we all look for. So one thing you will have to decide is what type of soil, whether it's a seed starting mix or a potting soil. You have to decide which one you want to start your onion seeds with. If you use a seedling mix like this one right here, you eventually will have to pot them up to a potting soil. That just does not have a lot of fertilizer, doesn't much in that soil right there for the seedling mix to be able to keep them growing until they're ready to go outside. If you use a potting soil, they could stay in that soil until they go outside. Now you will feed them some water soluble fertilizer, but besides that, the soil from the potting soil will be fine and you won't have to pot up. Now I choose not to pot up if I don't have to, just because it's an extra step. That means I got to buy a seedling mix and potting soil, so I'm buying 2 different soils, and it just, to me, it doesn't make much sense. Now one thing I will do is I will sift through any soil that I'm going to use to start in my seedlings for indoor use. I do this because in these soil bags, there's a ton of big pieces that I just don't want to be in my my small cells. So I will sift through there, and then whatever I've left, I will use to put in my cells. Now I chose to use Happy Frog this year, which is a bit more expensive, but it's a higher quality soil. When I would use something like Dr. Earth or any other brand that I can get at the nursery, I'd have half of my soil will be big chunks that I'm just end up throwing away because I don't want them in with starting my seeds. Now when I used Happy Frog, I had very minimal chunky pieces. I still had some, but it was not nearly as bad as other soils I used that were cheaper. So Happy Frog, we'll see how it performs, but I'm very happy with the quality of the soil. Alright, so I will show you how I fill up my trays. I'm going to be using the 6L tray here. In the past, I have used this type as well, which I will do some with these as well, but One thing when I use this type of tray, I will have to, when I go to transplant them into the garden, I'm going to have to pop this out and I'm going to have to pull them apart, trying to be careful not to like destroy the roots, and then I have to, plant them individually. And that seems to work for me. I mean, I had successful years growing onions, but it is a lot of work to do that. So this year I'm going to try and use these. That way I can just pop them out and transplant them into the garden. And I hope that it'll be a faster process. So like I said, I was successful doing it this way, but I am curious if there's more transplant shock by, tearing them apart. Onion roots are pretty indestructible, so I don't think it's going to really change too much, but maybe these will take to the ground a little quicker and start growing better in their new environment. So what I do here, simply fill up each cell about halfway to 3/4. Nothing too challenging here. You will see in the next slide, I will fast forward filling up all these cells, so we'll save a bit of time. But you want to wet your soil first, mix it all together. So then once I get them out halfway to 3/4 filled, then I will do a little thumb pack down just to get the soil the whole way down. You don't want to push them super hard down, just enough to get the way down to the bottom. Then I'll just simply come back, top it off, put a little more soil on the top, and then I will kind of even it out with my thumbs, not really pushing down, just kind of evening it out. If I have too much, I push it to the next cell, just like that. And then they will be ready to start putting your seedlings in. Not your seedlings, sorry, your seeds. So it'll be looking like something like this. Nothing too challenging. It'll look like that. Now if I were to do this one, same thing, I'll fill it up pretty good. Like that, and then I'll spread it around. Do a little thumb pack down again. Then add some more on top. Like so. Level it out. And just make it nice and even. Yeah, it just really depends on you. I like to make it look pretty even. It's not that important. But then there you have it. So there's two ways I like to start my onion seedlings. I'm going to do, like I said, a couple of these, but mostly these 6 cells. And I'm only going to do a couple of these just to kind of experiment and see how, when I transplant, if these take to the ground quicker than these, since these are kind of disturbing the roots a little bit, and got to rip them apart. So there you go. And then we will start planting the onion seeds. So I got all my cells all filled out with the soil. One thing I wanted to mention is some people like to put boiling water into their soil mix and mix it around. That's just in case they want to kill any fungus, gnat, eggs. I do that sometimes, but it's not necessary. I don't seem to have too much problems with fungus, gnats. So you can do that if you like. It's another option. But let's go through the onions that I'm going to be planting here today. This is a Calibra F1 from Johnny's, and this is a hybrid yellow onion. I heard that these store a little bit better, so I wanted to give them a shot. I see a lot of people getting nice big bulbs with this, so we're going to give these a try this year. Then we got the candy hybrid onion. This from Roars. And again, this is just a large bulb, maybe 5 inches diameter. White, firm, juicy flesh. I've grown this a couple times. This is a red onion, the ruby red. I've grown this a handful of times as well. They do pretty well. They don't store great, but they do okay. And then the yellow sweet Spanish. Again, I grew this last year, the year before, had good success. Now you want to start your onion seeds about 10 to 12 weeks prior to you planting them outside. So for me right now, if I'm starting the seeds in 12 weeks, it'll be about April 11th. And I like to get them out mid-April, maybe pushing a little May, but mid-April is good for me. 8 weeks would be March 14th, and then 10 weeks would be March 28th. So I'll definitely be keeping these guys inside for about 12 weeks. Then I'll harden them off, and then probably by the 13th week, 14th week, I'll be putting them outside, which will put me in mid-April to beginning of May. So that's like a good timeline for me. You'll have to check out your average last frost date and then decide when the starting time works for you, depending where you are in the certain areas. So make sure you check that out. You want to be starting them the right time indoors, and you don't want to be starting too early or too late. You want to start them at the right time, so when it's time to transplant them, your soil is warm enough and you're ready to get a jump start on the onion season. All right, now what we've all been waiting for, we're going to start to sow our seeds. I'm going to start off with the Calibra and pull this in a little bit. So I like to have a little something that I can make an indent where I can put my seeds. Of course, you're going to want to have some type of label. You want to use tape on the side, that's fine too. I like to use little labels, but you want to make sure you label it because, we all have done this in the past where you think I'll remember what I planted, and then you don't. So just make sure to label it. So let's get our seeds. I like to put them in a little something to make it a little easier. Dump them in. I'm not sure if you guys will be able to see that, but these are onion seeds. They're a little black. They're pretty small. They're not the tiniest seed you're going to deal with when you're starting seeds indoors, but they are small and they're black, so your soil, they kind of blend in, which can make it difficult. Now, you'll see when I sow these bigger ones, how I do that. But for these, I'm going to put 2 seeds, and that's just so if one doesn't germinate, the other one hopefully will. Now, I will probably thin them down to just 1 seedling when they emerge, and that's because I want to be able to pop these out and put them in as 1 plant. And I want to make it a little easier for me to transplant them, and that will be my easiest bet. So that is what I'll do. Maybe I'll leave 2 in some of them, but it all depends. So you basically just want to make little indents, and I like to get rid of any pieces that made it through the sifter. 2 little indents. I apologize if it's hard to see. Just 2 little indents. Now, onion seeds, you want to plant about a 1/4 inch deep. I don't get too, particular about how deep I put my seeds. If you're around 1/4 to 1/2 inch, that should be fine. You don't have to be exact. So I'll go through here, make little indents, about a 1/4 inch. So let me finish up this here. Okay. Now what I'm going to do here is actually, let's put this to the side. I can pull this a little closer. It's probably hard to see the indents, but for me, I can see them a little better. I like to put them relatively close to the center. Not just, I'd rather have them be growing up in the center. So then you take the seeds. I like to put them in my hand. And they are pretty small. And they're black. And then you just drop one seed in each indent. Not the funnest process, but you got to do it. I'm going to make sure they don't stick to your finger too. I believe some of them did. So like I said, if you put, 2 seeds in a hole, it's not a big deal. Like I said, I think I skipped a few here, so I'm going to put them in anyways. You can always thin it out. And another way you can do it is just put them on top. Then I like to use my little indenter and just make sure, they get in the soil. Like that one was a little high. Push them in. And then I either will sprinkle a little bit on top, or if I know they got in there pretty good, I'll just kind of push some soil over top them. And there you have it. You got seeds sowed. And then I will come through, just give them a little mister. I don't always do this, but just to give them a little bit. So just like that. Now, you want to get your label. Make sure to put that in. Now I'm going to be doing a whole flat of Calibra. So I'm only going to use one label because this will be all Calibra. Now let me put this back down and I'll show you kind of what I like to do with this. For this size cell, I will not do indents. That's just a little bit too much work. But what I will do is just sprinkle. No really rhyme or reason. They will all grow up together, come up, and I will be leaving every single seed in. I'm not going to worry about thinning. Really, when I technically will be thinning, not really thinning, I'm going to be plopping this whole thing out and ripping them apart, trying to make sure that each plant has a nice root system. And then that's how I will be transplanting them. So you can see why I'm going to try these 6 cells here, is just so I can make the transplant process a little easier. I don't want to necessarily be out there pulling these apart. And then, the plant itself is going to be sitting out there for a little bit. Hopefully it's not too warm out. It should just be spring. So it shouldn't be too hot, but the sun could still be out and it could still dry out your roots. So I do that, then I'll get a little bit of soil, sprinkle it on, and just cover it up. That way all your seeds are under the soil. And again, These are Calibra. Forget my label. Put it in. Grab your mister. This is on top a little bit. Like that. Now you got your seeds started. I imagine they'll be 7 to 10 days down here before they start to germinate. You could put them on a heat mat. That will certainly speed up the process a little bit. Down here in my basement, it stays about 60 degrees, so that's not a bad temperature for onions. And I'm not in too much of a hurry, so I'm not going to put them on a heat mat. You know, some of my warmer weather crops like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, you know, I will put them in on a heat mat until they pop up and germinate. So there you have it. I already did these guys earlier. So these are the ones that I'm going to try in this type of container, which I've done in the past. This is how I've done it. I just got tired of transplanting them and pulling them apart, and I'm just also curious if I'm able to just pop them out. It's obviously going to be a lot faster, and I'm curious if the transplant shock will be less because the root system will not be disturbed at all. I mean, they're obviously going to have some shock from coming from this environment in here and then going out into the garden. Well, I'm hopeful that the shock is less. So we'll see if these start growing a little faster than these will, since I'm disturbing the roots. But either way, this always worked for me. I had no issues. I had nice big bulbs, onions. So we'll see how that experiment works. Alright guys, so there you have it. I got all my onion seeds planted. You can see I did 3 trays of the 6 cell, then these larger ones, and that's just again for the experiment. So I will come back when they start germinating and show you the germination rate. I think for the Calibra from Johnny's, it's like an 88% germination rate, so that's pretty good. And then I'll also come back later on as they get bigger. I like to top them when they get to a certain size. So we will come back and revisit the onions when that time comes. But hopefully in 7 to 10 days, I got a bunch of onion seedlings popping up. Alright, I hope you found this video helpful. And if you have any questions, drop a comment and I'll be sure to answer that question. And I will see you guys on the next one. Thank you.